Hello, this is group number 8. My name is Natalie Miles.
My name is Cameron Nicholson.
I'm Tanya Morrell.
And I'm Suzanne Canoyer.
We are here today to talk to you about nurse burnout rates. Okay, a little bit of background. Burnout is defined as prolonged response to physical or emotional stressors that result in feelings of exhaustion, being overwhelmed, full of self-doubt, anxiety, bitterness, cynicism, and even ineffectiveness. Dr. Herbert observed that out of the group of professionals in a clinic, the most committed workers who exerted themselves trying to perform their duties were at a higher risk for burnout. Furthermore, long hours and coordinating schedules in your home life and at work also contribute to burnout.
So leadership can have a positive impact on nurse burnout. Certain leadership theories tend to be more positive than others. One of these is emotional intelligence. In this theory, the leader handles stress in a positive and constructive way, which proves themselves as a positive role model for their staff. They also see problems as opportunities, which increases morale of staff by communication and getting buy-in from the staff. Behavioral theories, such as the democratic leadership style, is more beneficial in this case. It increases staff motivation, productivity, and happiness. It creates a trusting environment and enables staff to feel involved in decisions and feel important. Task versus relationships theory states that the leader will balance workload with proper staffing levels and experience. They know their staff and they build a relationship with them. They make themselves approachable for the team to come to them with any problems they may have, and they also notice problems early with the staff, for example, changes in actions or emotions before it's too late. And finally, the motivation theory shows that the leader respects and values their individuals, which decreases mental exhaustion and burnout. It acknowledges contributions to the team and the individual's importance to the team, and shares credit for successes and notes positive actions of the team.
Now I'm going to talk about some negative aspects of leadership. So, even the best leaders, even when they're doing their job correctly, when a nurse is experiencing burnout, even their best judgment can, affect the nurse. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more, like Suzanne, about task versus relationship theory. In this theory, the leader is to keep everybody on task, but sometimes sacrifices the relationship to do that. So as a good leader, you've got to balance it. But in a busy ER that's understaffed, the task usually does more precedent than the relationship. So to an already burned out nurse, this could further increase her burnout. And she could feel like she, is a failure. She could also, her morale and her productivity could dip. She could also become bitter at her leader. And so that's one part. Furthermore, due to understaffing, the nurse managers have been given more clerical work. And the staff nurses feel discomfort because they never see the presence of their leader. They're always in their office. They're never helping at the bedside. And it also just makes them feel very standoffish, and that also contributes to burnout. So, here's a question for the audience. Who does nurse burnout affect?
So I want to talk about 3 different populations. Just kidding. I want to talk about 3 different populations that it affects. First of all, obviously it affects the nurse. It also affects her coworkers in the community that she's involved in. And it finally affects her patients. How does it affect the nurse? Well, it affects the nurse because burned out nurses tend to experience a higher level of fatigue. A study found that there's a circular relationship between burnout and sleep quality, mediated by the effects of personal burnout on impaired sleep quality and of daytime dysfunction on the presence of total burnout. So once again, burnout to an already fatigued nurse is going to exacerbate that. It also affects the nurse because the nurse may experience psychological and psychosocial strain, which means that they are going to have strained relationships with themselves, with their own psyche, and they're also going to have strained relationships with their peers, their husband, their wife, whatever. Nurses also experience decreased job satisfaction because if a nurse is burned out, they're most likely not going to want to do their job. They're not going to like their job. They may have been overworked and to a point where nursing is not their passion anymore. It affects the community and their coworkers as well. And it affects their coworkers because a burned out nurse may be less patient to work with coworkers. They may be more likely to snap or have an attitude with other coworkers. It also strains their personal relationships and, like I said, relationships with other staff. A study found that there's a high nurse turnover, that when there's a high nurse turnover, it exacerbates nursing staff shortage in already understaffed hospitals. The remaining staff is strained and is also at risk for burnout. And going hand in hand with that, like I said, it raises the already high turnover rates. Burnout is significantly linked to job satisfaction, turnover, and absenteeism, which leads to high costs for hospitals. Like we already know, when a nurse goes through training, there's a certain amount of money involved with that. And when a nurse leaves that job, the hospital loses that money. And finally, it affects the patients. And that is, in my opinion, the most important part because we are here to take care of patients. So how does it affect patients? It affects patients because it provides poor patient care and leads to unsatisfied patients. Burnout is viewed as a threat to patient safety because depersonalization is presumed to result in poor interactions with patients. Emotionally exhausted clinicians curtail performance to focus only on the most necessary and pressing tasks. Clinicians with burnout may also have impaired attention, memory, and executive function that decrease their recall and attention to detail. Diminished vigilance, cognitive function, and increased safety lapses place clinicians and patients at high risk for error. It also affects the patients because burned out nurses may experience decreased empathy towards the patient, which is going to lead to the nurse, and for a lack of better words, not caring for their patient. It also leads to overall unsafe patient care because, and this is especially important to our topic, because ER care must be quick and it must be accurate. So an ER nurse sometimes cannot afford to make a mistake.
So now that we've talked about what burnout is and we've discussed how leadership can affect burnout in a positive or negative way, I'd like to discuss, after the consequences, how we fix it. A couple of strategies include identifying and balancing personal and professional goals. We need to make sure that we don't focus too heavily on one or the other, so that either part of our life suffers. We also need to decide whether we need to make some changes in our career. If we shape our career to optimize the meaning and identifying stress, we're able to find out what's draining, what's energizing, and then we can move forward then with how we need to make any kind of further adjustments. Taking care of yourself is also very important. We need to eat right, exercise, take trips, spend time with friends, family, kids, have date nights, things like that. Planning your days backwards was also a strategy that a lot of nurses use. It can help with balancing better the time that you use at home and resting your body and with work. So you don't overload your work. You can start by planning your days with the number of number of hours of sleep you would like, and then enter the time that you need to eat, time with your kids and family to rest, and then the remaining time is for work. And will help you balance that out better instead of being too job oriented and not being able to get the other piece of what you need in your daily life. We also can take employee retreats. This can help with participants engaging in guided imagery, creative writing, meditation, massages, song and dance, yoga, laughter, all stress relievers for the employees. Rewards are also a great incentive to keep the motivation going for the employees. This could include things like salary increases, travel, tuition for advanced degrees, and Employee of the Month rewards. Hiring more staff is also a really big and important thing that the management needs to do. It can take a lot of the pressure off of the employees who are working around the clock, and that's what causes the imbalance between their home and work life. So that can release a lot of the pressure that they have that causes this burnout. Scheduling can also allow for the employees who have different things going on in their home life, like a sick kid, a death in the family, something like that. They'd be able to work with your schedule and make the employee more effective and safer while they're at work. Support groups as well. They help employees look out for each other as people who are in the same position and understand each other. They're able to support each other and be able to lift each other up in the times that they're needing that support. Staff training as well can help the nurses be more efficient with their time management. It helps them helps each other while they're at work and work together better as a team. It also includes leadership seminars, teaching the leaders how to become more effective leaders, teaching them how they can work best with the staff that they have on hand, and learn better leadership skills to rally their staff as well. And lastly, we have the Wellbeing Index. It's an online membership that nurses can anonymously answer questions. It'll assess their level of burnout, and the administration can also find or get the data from the questionnaires and are able to then gauge where their staff is on the spectrum of burnout, and it acknowledges a great starting point so that they're able to move forward from there.
I would also like to add that we have attached a handout for everyone to look at. We would like for you guys to look at that and kind of remember that as you go through your career. It points out what nurse burnout looks like. It talks about some of the strategies to relieve it, and as well as some of the resources that you can use. So that would be a very important, tool for you guys to have going forward. You want to introduce our speaker?
So yes, so we have the guest speaker, that Matthew Izzo. He's an actual ER nurse. He's going to come answer a few questions for us. Say hello to our audience.
Hello, guys.
All right, front center. So we have a few questions for you.
Yes,
Okay. I believe.
Okay, I'll go first.
sure.
Have you seen any circumstances in which burnout manifested in the nurses and it changed the patient care that they gave?
Yes, unfortunately, it happens very frequently. In particular, it happens a lot over in the trauma center because of the amount of patients that we have coming in at one time. Sometimes we've had upwards of 7 high acuity level 1 traumas coming in at once. What we try to do to alleviate that is by circling nurses around and finding alternate stress relievers with the help of management that we can do during the time of their shift.
Okay. Well, I have a question on leadership. So can a bad leader really make or break a nurse in working with them?
Absolutely. So the role of leadership is to ease the tension and to ease the workload that we have. Unfortunately, sometimes you have too many leaders and not enough workers. At my hospital in particular, we try to work around that by spreading the leadership out throughout the night and even throughout holidays, and making sure that we have adequate amount of charge nurses and flow coordinators to be there as advocates, not only for the patients, but also for the staff.
Speaking of your hospital, is there any resources at Grady that help alleviate nurse burnout?
Absolutely. So we have access to 24-hour social services as well as chaplaincy services that we also use for the patients as well as for the staff members. We also have a 24-hour cafeteria access, which oddly enough, a little bit of food, maybe some coffee, can do you a little good, even at 2 in the morning. And we have 24-hour gym access on the 16th floor for people that want to get a workout maybe before or after work to get some tension.
Awesome.
That's good. So what have you seen a burned out nurse looking like? Like what do they exhibit?
So the most common you find is a change in their personality throughout the night, or because I work nighttime, so throughout the night or throughout the day. They might start out energetic, but you start to find them very secluded. They don't really want to reach out to anybody. Sometimes even hard to locate in general. So it is the responsibility of the charge nurses to make sure that everyone is accounted for. And if we need to, again, just as I was telling her, change people out, rotate people around is what we do to make sure that everyone has an equal workload and to make sure that no one is treated unfairly.
Okay.
And how have you prevented your burnout?
So in particular for me, I have an abnormally high level of energy, but I always try to find the best in every situation that I have. I'm never hesitant to reach out to anyone for help. I never want to let myself get to a point to where I can't handle it. And again, we have a fantastic group of staff, not only with nurses, but also with the ancillary staff and the doctors, to make sure that I get the support that I need.
That is very important.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight. We appreciate
Pleasure is
it.
all mine.
And thank you for watching our video.
Thanks.